Hello and welcome to the Brit Lit Book Club. I'm Vanessa, and if you've been with me for a while, you know this podcast is usually just me chatting about British authors, their works, and their incredible places that inspired them. But today we're trying something a little different, our very first interview episode. I'm joined by Michael, who runs Take Note Troupe and directs Shakespeare in the Park here in Northern California. He also hosts the Happiness Playbook podcast, where he teaches life skills through something called play theory. What I really wanted to talk with Michael about today is why performing Shakespeare still matters, especially for young people, and what these 400-year-old plays can teach us about being human. So grab a cup of tea and let's dive into this conversation. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing good.
I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. So we're just going to talk a little bit about Shakespeare today and just about how important Shakespeare is and how it can influence the lives of people and especially teenagers, since you work with teenagers. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what you do? Tell us about your podcast and about Take Note Troupe and Shakespeare.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the best job in the world. Get to help teenagers in their life. And that's mostly what we focus on, is we focus on their life skills. We focus on things that they can carry with them outside of the program, not just theater, though that is also a skill in and of itself, because I think it really helps with things like public speaking and getting a job and being confident. So that's a lot of what we focus on. So specifically, a couple of the things that we do, which is really fun, is Shakespeare in the Park. And that's a blast. That's every year, and during the summer we go out in the park and we do the big event. You've been there.
Yeah, we've been there several years. I've got 2 kids in Shakespeare this year, so I'm really excited to see it. What show are you doing this year?
This year we're doing Taming of the Shrew.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, and we're going all Bollywood style on it.
It's exciting.
Too. Yeah.
I like the little twists that you do. Tell us a little bit about some of the past shows that you've done and some kind of the twists that you've done in those shows.
We've done quite a few different things. Probably some of the biggest twists would be, at least that I am aware of in our history, is probably Taming the Shrew is a big twist on things. Probably the biggest one besides that was Comedy of Errors. That one's like black and white, so we're literally painting the actors and the set black and white. So that was a pretty crazy twist on that.
That was fun. I remember the makeup for that one took hours.
Yeah. It was like call time is earlier in the hot sun.
Yeah, and 100 degrees and the white paint melting on their faces.
Yeah. So and last year we did Much Ado About Nothing, and that one it kind of had just a nice air to it. It wasn't as Shakespearean, in the clothing, but it was very kind of light clothing, and it was based off of Beatles soundtracks and stuff. Yeah. So we do all sorts of twists.
It was fun. I love that you add like music and dancing to Shakespeare, make it really enjoyable and viewable.
Well, it's somewhat historically accurate, I think, to Shakespeare, because he did music and he did dancing. It's just we didn't have that written down, because a lot of our scripts we got from just people who had them backstage. And we can talk all about
a little bit more about your podcast.
Yeah, so it's called the Happiness Playbook, and right now we're trying to build YouTube up a lot. We're also on other platforms. Yeah, it's really wonderful. Just same thing. We're trying to teach life skills, and I'm trying to teach a wider audience. I'm trying to kind of focusing more on adults and maybe older teens, and trying to help with life situations, relationships. And just trying to help people have a more happy life through practices.
Yeah. What are some of those practices?
Yeah, so that's where we get into play theory. So
tell us a little bit about play theory.
So play theory is a mindset consisting of 4 principles, which is be present, let go and play, accept and build, and look outward. And these are principles that we've just seen from people living their life. Like when we're looking, so Larry, who's the founder of this, she was just looking at people in their life and saw who are the happiest people and what are they doing, and really tried to observe that. So they're principles based off of observations in the world. And if you practice those things and you try to like let go and play and be able to be in a more playful state of mind, but also looking out for other people, you end up being happier. So that's what we teach on the podcast.
Love that. I've had 4 kids go through your program and definitely can attest to the fact that those theories are working in their lives. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
What makes performing Shakespeare outdoors special? Versus like on a stage?
I like that question. I mean, for me, it's nostalgic. I went through the program myself.
Yeah.
So I would...
Alumni.
Yeah. And I think it's like a trend. Like it's a thing around the world. Like there's lots of people who do Shakespeare in the Park, not just us. I think
professional people that do Shakespeare in the park too, right?
Yeah. And maybe there's something to be said about the Globe, like the original Globe Theater is outdoors, like there's no roof. Or actually, was there a roof?
No,
I think
no
there
roof.
was.
No roof, so it was open.
It was open. Okay.
Yeah, it still is open. So I've been a few times, and it's, you have like the awning kind of, and then the middle part is
Gotcha.
open.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I mean, I've seen various renditions of the Globe, but and I remember
a few that have burnt down and been rebuilt.
yeah. Well, because I think there was one that may have had a top on it because it had like stars and sky on it or something like that.
Yeah, the Sam Wanamaker Theater too, right next to the Globe. Also, that one is indoors, and that's the one where they do all of the theater by candlelight.
Yeah,
it's really cool. But.
Yeah, that's cool. So I don't know. I think it's just traditional.
Yeah.
I think there's a way that you connect with that. I don't know. Like a lot of the set just takes place outdoors anyway.
That's true.
So it's just really fun, and there's not really a lot that you do indoors that needs to be different. Like indoor theater spaces, we have all sorts of lighting options, and we have visual effects, and you don't really get any of that with Shakespeare. So it's easy, and it's also cheaper to go outside, but it's also fun because you can attract larger audiences. So there's a lot of reasons to go outside.
One time I went to the Globe, and one of the tour guides was telling me that Shakespeare, you read it, and it's like, we've got these monologues, and they're just kind of like these long, and they were saying that in Shakespeare's time, like these monologues would have been more like you're saying them, but then the audience is like yelling things back to you. So like when you're reading it or when you're just like seeing it on a stage, and in our day and age, we're so used to just sitting and viewing and not interacting with theater, but they were telling us that it was more of an interactive experience back in the day. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they know that or but I thought that was really interesting. Well, and I think being outside in a park, I think the audience is probably more open versus like sitting primly in a dark theater while you're just watching things. They're probably more apt to interact with the players.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One of my friends, actually one of our coaches here too, Ted, he went recently. And he was telling me that, I can't remember what play they saw. I think it might have been Midsummer. But he said that one of the professional actors on stage came out and was interacting with the audience. Like an audience member said something to him, and then he said something very Shakespearean back. And they were saying that's what they felt was more traditional. Yeah. And I think maybe where we get that is because, once again, a lot of the scripts, they weren't just compiled by Shakespeare. He was handing out,
little
leaflets
bits of paper.
And pieces of paper, yeah. So I think that there was a little bit of an expectation of like, hey, this is what your character is like, and these are some lines I'd like you to say, but also here's some points of audience interaction.
That's where improv comes in, right?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of improv, a lot of music, dancing, things that we just didn't have in the script.
Yeah. Improv is another thing that you do, because my son's on your improv team.
Yeah.
I don't know, you want to talk a little bit about that and just about
sure.
importance of improv, because I think that's important as well.
Oh, yeah. We talk about it relating to Shakespeare a lot, actually, too, because there's a lot that can go wrong at Shakespeare in the Park. So
this is true.
Yeah. But that's also a life skill. I think improvisation, it really helps us to just be more eloquent and also more confident in any interaction, because we're all just improvising through our life.
Yeah, I'm improvising this interview right now. So
yeah, exactly. But when you do improv, you're just making connections. That's all you're really doing.
Yeah.
Is you're telling a story by tying things together. But that's what we do. And it's comedy because life is relatable and funny. It's like, that's the reason I think we don't teach kids how to be funny. We teach them how to be relatable, and then it ends up being a comedy show.
Yeah. Those are always the funniest improv things, when it's like something relatable. Like, like I get that. That's so funny,
Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
So that's a fun thing that we do. We practice that a lot. It's a bigger part of our program is improv.
Yeah, love that. I think it's so important. Shakespeare wrote over 400 years ago, yet his works are still performed constantly. What do you think it is about his writing that has given it such staying power?
Oh, I think that gets right back into the relatability. Mm-hmm. They actually are really relatable. And the hardest part is the language, because when you look at the language, you think that they're being very proper most of the time.
Right.
And, they talked in a certain way, but they're also human beings. And so he made it very relatable.
Yeah. Seeing Much Ado last summer, there were a lot of just the banter between Benedict and Beatrice, and just it's so much of that is still relatable. I mean, you watch like a rom-com, and it's nothing's changed.
I was joking last year that the Much Ado About Nothing is the first rom-com.
It's so true. Yeah. I know, it's funny. Just that like tension between them, that like, will they or won't they? They both like each other, but they don't want to admit it because they're both super stubborn. That's literally the basis of every rom-com I've ever seen. How do you think Shakespeare influenced the English language itself? And are there phrases that we use today that we don't even realize come from his plays?
Yeah, I know a couple of words. I know that some of our swear words come from Shakespeare.
But the kids love that.
Yeah, they love that. Absolutely. But one of the words that's really interesting that comes from Shakespeare is bedazzle.
Ooh.
He coined that phrase.
That's a fun one.
He made a lot of words. I can't remember how many it was supposedly he created, but it's a surprising amount.
Yeah.
Like I think it's at least in the hundreds.
Yeah.
Of
I've
words.
heard it's like 400 something. I'll have to fact check that, but it's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But sometimes you'll be kind of surprised because as you're going through the script, you're going along and everything doesn't make sense, and then one
like,
phrase makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
You're like,
That we say that today,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
I think he's had a huge impact on English, especially today's.
Shakespeare wrote during a specific historical moment, the Elizabethan era. How did the politics and culture of his time shape the stories he told?
So Shakespeare had to work for money, and so that actually influenced a lot of his work. And the people who had money are noble people. Now, I think it's really funny that he takes stabs at them. I think that there's some statements he's making against them, and I'm sure that he didn't mind making people upset sometimes, because I think there was times when he needed money, and maybe times that he was probably doing all right. Like sometimes he had to turn around and write a play in a very short amount of time. Like a couple of weeks or something.
Those are not short.
They're not short plays. Yeah, like Hamlet's like 4 hours.
Yeah.
But he had a lot to say about culture. He had a lot to say about the class system. So it definitely influenced his work. I mean, it's the storytelling of his day. It had to relate to them at that time.
I thought it was interesting. I think it's interesting that he's writing, for all nobility, but also the groundlings. I think it's fascinating that he could make these jokes that these people who are, subsistence living can understand, but also the nobility is also getting, I don't know, I feel like he does really well at like playing to all of the classes, and he probably had to.
Yeah, and he probably had jokes for each class as well that maybe some on either side didn't really get quite as much.
That's true.
I think he was really in tune with how everyone functioned. He dealt with every class more than most people would probably because of that work.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the Dogberry scene in like Much Ado, and that's very like physical comedy. I mean, I don't know how he played it out, but at least how I've seen it played out. It's very like physical comedy. And, but then he's got some more really sophisticated jokes in there as well. So
no, it's true. So I wonder how much would go over someone's head,
right? Yeah,
and I think that at that time, and maybe I need to fact check this too, but it seems like people had a much larger vocabulary, just generally speaking.
Yeah,
whether they could read or write was another thing. I mean, he made jokes about that too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely probably bigger than we have today.
Yeah.
Since we don't understand half of the words that he's saying, right?
Yep. They had more filler words, I feel.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I saw something the other day. It was it was like a sentence and like Shakespearean sentence, and it was like 20 words, and it was like Victorian, and it was like 15 words, and it was like today, like 2 words.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. How are you doing today? I'm fine.
Yeah, we've learned to make things concise and pare things down, and I think we're all in a hurry, more in a hurry than they were back then, maybe. Yep. So you just say things quicker.
Okay. Effective isn't always better, though.
No, it's true. You could use some more words. When you're working with teenagers on Shakespeare, what surprises them the most about the relevance of these centuries-old plays?
Oh, that's a great question. I think when they start putting it in their own words, that really starts to surprise them. And that's a tricky thing, too, because sometimes they put it in their own words and then they memorize it that way. And so then they have a hard time going back to Shakespeare, because it's really important to memorize it in Shakespearean.
Yeah. But also to understand it.
So but to understand it, I think it's a really surprising moment when they start putting it in their own words because they're like, oh, this is relatable. And you can take Shakespeare in many ways. I think that's how he intended it, from what I understand. So it's, once again, really relatable.
It was fascinating. My son's been in Shakespeare. I think this is his 3rd year. And just like watching him memorize lines. And I'm like, do you understand what you're saying? He's like, yeah. And I'm sure you've gone over the text with the kids and helped them to understand that, because I don't know that they'd be able to get that on their own. But I think once you do understand it, it does make it so much more relevant for them.
Well, and if I can say something to that too, the kids, they really have a cool time when they start to emotionally connect with the lines and they can physically represent what they mean, because that's how you can take it in a lot of different ways. And so then it means something completely different when you start you as the character, instead of saying, I'm going to say my line so that you can say your line. It's like, okay, no, me, Benedict, right? Going back to Much Ado, I care about Beatrice.
Right.
And when they get in that mode, the lines become their own words.
Yeah.
And it becomes really relatable. And then they say it the way that they would do it in that situation. So it's kind of cool.
They did such a good job, Benedict and Beatrice.
They did.
The chemistry was so good.
It was tough. We had a lot of, sometimes I just sit in a room and say, like, you guys make eye contact for a minute. I'll go get some water. We tried to get them connected.
They did great. Which Shakespeare play do you think speaks most powerfully to our current moment and why?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot to choose from and a lot of current moments to choose from, too.
Yeah, there are a lot. I see a lot of people who connect with Romeo and Juliet in various different ways. I mean, it is one of the most popular, but I see that people, and I think sadly, are kind of connecting to the tragic relationship.
A lot of red flags.
Yeah, red flags, relationships that end really poorly. And so I think people connect with that.
I think anything with like a love story or a relationship, I mean, because that's something that everybody deals with. So
yeah,
almost everybody deals with. And so I think I can see why that would be relatable.
Yeah.
Especially toxic relationships.
Yeah.
Which are so common right now.
Yeah, especially toxic, which was why it was really fun to do Much Ado recently. And even Comedy of Errors before that Comedy of Errors had some toxic relationships,
right.
But I think people really relate to Much Ado as well because there are some really positive relationships. But there were, the deal with that play was that you have a relationship that is like too perfect and then it goes wrong,
right.
And then one that's imperfect that goes right. And so you see it kind of both ways, but then it all ends up well in the end. And I think people related to that because they wanted to. You know, they want the relationships to go well.
Everyone loves a happy ending, right?
Yeah, it's true.
How do you help modern audiences connect with the language of Shakespeare's world?
First, the kids need to understand what they're saying.
Right, yeah. I think that comes across.
Yeah.
If they're just saying the lines rote and they don't understand what they're saying, I think that you can tell sometimes.
Yeah. I think a really good way to do this is go to your scene, you take a point that is the strongest point of the scene, and you try to lead in that direction. You try to help the characters with their objectives. What do they want from each other? And use a little bit of alliteration. Sometimes this is why it's better to watch Shakespeare, because you can have a couple on stage, for example, like holding hands, or you could have them facing away from each other or something like that, right? And you can show relationship. And, most of our language is body language.
Yeah.
So
Shakespeare's not a very good audiobook.
It's not.
I listened to, I think, Romeo and Juliet for book club once, and I was like, this was a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, it's fun for Shakespeare nerds, but those who are able to sit there and imagine what it looks like on stage.
Right. I guess if you have like a really good visual imagination, you can do that,
Yeah, I have fun reading Shakespeare, but it's because I'm thinking about how it happens. I'm not thinking about like the castle, hallway that it's trying to paint. I'm thinking about the stage, and that's more exciting.
Yeah, just a different way to think about it. Kind of leading into that, Shakespeare's plays were written to be performed, not just read. What gets lost when we only experience Shakespeare on the page?
Yeah, same kind of things. Well, you lose the community because every night feels a little bit different in Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And you lose some of the meaning behind things. Like every time I watch a play, it doesn't matter if I've seen it a number of times, someone else has a different way of interpreting that. So that's where you get the interpretations on the stage. And so you lose that very easily if you just do a sit and read.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw last year in Cedar City, we saw Much Ado. And then, the kids performed it the following year. And it was interesting to see just like, oh, this is how they interpreted it. And this is how Michael's interpreting it. It was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, we had an interesting interpretation too, if I might add. Shakespeare knew his Bible really well. And it's super, super obvious. And in Much Ado, there's specifically a big theme across the whole that is just so interesting. But if you look at it as if it were the Garden of Eden, everything matches up. And so it's like, wow. Like that's really, really a cool thing. All the relationships, talking about man. I mean, it's Much Ado about nothing. If you put that into an acronym, it says man. And so it's talking about man and woman and their nature. Anyway, it's just cool to see that's our interpretation.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty obvious.
I think it is obvious. And I think anytime I've seen Much Ado on stage, which I think I've seen it 3 different times, it's always been set in a garden. And I'm sure, I don't know if Shakespeare says that at the beginning. I haven't actually read Much Ado. But I'm sure, like everybody's had like a very garden-like setting.
It's kind of gone for that. I'm trying to think if there are any lines. We brought in sonnets that did talk about the garden and Adam and Eve. So that's what we brought in. And but it's always set in a garden, it seems like.
Speaking of seeing Much Ado at Cedar City, tell us about the Cedar City Shakespeare competition and what does that experience teach young performers?
Very cool competition. I did it myself. I wanted to give the opportunity to kids as well. And it's basically a competition where you bring in some scenes. You can bring a monologue, a duo or trio scene, or an ensemble. And that is basically how many people are in the scene and how long the scene is. So you just do a couple minutes for a monologue and then maybe 7 to 10 minutes on an ensemble. And basically they bring the Shakespeare pieces in and they compete. And it's just an opportunity for them to learn a lot about acting, to learn from professors and professional actors.
Yeah, who's adjudicating when they're performing? Like, who are they performing in front of?
That can be anybody, which drives me crazy. But for the most part, it's actors and professors. And then occasionally there'll be like a student thrown in there or something like that. But usually someone who's about to graduate.
Yeah.
So you get to learn from professionals about acting, but you're also learning about Shakespeare because you're seeing a lot of the same scenes. Maybe you brought a monologue, but someone else can bring the same monologue. It's not like we all talk beforehand, Yeah. So it's kind of a cool event to celebrate Shakespeare. And
I've been 2 years in a row, and it's just like really amazing to see what the kids do, the interpretations that they come up with, and it just always seems like a really positive experience for them. And then we always go see a show, and kids love that. And it's cool for them to be around those like professional actors too. I know last year my son was in a scene from Much Ado, and then their adjudicator was in the professional Much Ado that we saw the next day. So that was really cool. The kids were really excited about that.
Yeah, it's really, really cool to see. And sometimes you get a really cool judge. Like, there were some that were pretty crazy that had been in a lot of TV shows. Yeah. There was one guy I saw who came from New York, and he's like, oh yeah, I used to do some stuff here a little bit, but I just travel around the world, and I'm an actor, professional actor and director and stuff. I was like, gosh. Yeah,
one of them, Jackson, he had a monologue this year, and after his monologue, the adjudicator that was introducing himself, he was on one of Jackson's favorite TV shows, I guess, so he was like all starstruck. It was really funny.
Oh, wow.
So that was a cool moment for him. Why is it important that we keep performing these plays rather than just studying them as historical artifacts?
This feels like almost sci-fi to me, but it's like a passing down of our history, and it's like the only way to do it. And the reason it feels sci-fi is like I've watched some things where it's like, oh, deep into the future, how do these people know English? Well, it's because we have a tradition to speak it. I think it's like the only way to really pass it down. Like if Shakespeare's works, I think, would have died if it wasn't on stage.
I think so too. I think especially the language being so different than what we know now, to just like hand it to a 9th grader and be like, have fun, kids. Yeah. I don't think they're going to get the same feeling out of it as if they had seen it on the stage or really studied it deeply. I remember, I think my first introduction to Shakespeare was in 9th grade. I think we read Romeo and Juliet, and it was like, okay, this is boring, but we did, in my English class, we performed it. I think I was the friar. I think it was a very, very nerve-wracking. I hated it. I do not like to be on stage, but I also still remember that experience and still remember the story and everything that I got out of it. So it was much more memorable than just the other books that I read in school.
Yeah, I think most people do. Like when you talk to them about their experience with doing like a little, they're like, oh, I did a Shakespeare play once. Like, you remember that? Yeah,
absolutely. It's hard to forget.
Yeah, there's something about it.
Either because you're so nervous you're going to throw up, or or you loved it, right? Yep. It's the catalyst to decide whether you're a theater kid or not. I was not.
Yeah. I mean, my first Shakespeare was with TNT. I mean, I had been introduced because my aunt actually directed Shakespeare for years. And so I went and watched her stuff.
If someone has never seen Shakespeare performed live, which play would you recommend they start with and why?
Oh, I guess it's what you're in the mood for. There's tragedies, there's comedies, there's histories, which, histories can be a mix of, I guess. The tragedies and comedies are the most popular. And I do in particularly really love Much Ado. I think Midsummer Night's Dream is a really great one as well. Yeah. That one's a little bit more fantastical. If you want something grounded in reality, Much Ado is nice.
It feels like it's like a psychedelic trip every time I see Midsummer.
Yeah. And then for tragedy, I really like Macbeth. I think Macbeth is probably my favorite. I think it's a little bit more bite-sized and it's a little bit easier to follow.
I saw Macbeth at the Globe, and they did it in kind of like a futuristic, like alien I don't even know how to explain it, but it was very futuristic, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. This is going to be so weird. But what I was so impressed with, because I was like, okay, I love the comedies, you know, that's really my jam. I don't really love the histories or the tragedies. So I kind of went into it like, I don't know if I'm going to love this, but I was really impressed with how much humor they brought into Macbeth. I didn't know it was possible to bring humor into that, but they did a really good job of making it just really enjoyable, and I was impressed with that.
Well, there's arguments that some of the tragedies are really just comedies,
right? Like satire almost, right?
Yeah, because there's not really a huge difference between tragedy and comedy.
I could see that. Yeah. I think it was my first time seeing a tragedy, so I just kind of went in with like, oh, this is gonna be kind of boring, you know? So it was kind of interesting. I did see Richard II in London with Jonathan Bailey. And again, it was like, I mean, I went because I wanted to see Jonathan Bailey, right? But I also was like, okay, this is going to be a history. It's going to be a bit of a snoozer. Paul and I went, and we were both like on the edge of our seat. It was so well done. We were captivated. I couldn't believe. I was like, I'm going to be bored out of my mind. But we were just so fascinated, and it was so well done, even though it was definitely harder to understand than the comedies.
The histories can be very, very thrilling. I mean, like Joan of Arc. You know, there's so many moments where it's like, oh my gosh, like they usually lead up to a big historic moment. Like,
right. Wow. Yeah. And Jonathan Bailey played it so well. He was he was like snuffing lines of cocaine on the stage. I mean, not real ones, but you know what I mean? But like, he was just, you know, because it was like a modern interpretation. So it was that would make sense. Yeah. He did such a good job. It was so impressive. What is your favorite Shakespeare moment to direct or watch performed?
There's moments that I think can come out of anywhere. Some of my favorite moments are when there's a slow burn, like when there's some lines that lead up to a moment. And when I talk about a slow burn, it's usually like a moment where there's some silence, but there's a lot of comedy. One of my favorites was actually in Comedy of Errors. We actually added this in. We had someone step in for Luciana because the idea was it was a set. So he comes out and he's like this big brute man, and then they're having a fight. You know, it's like the couple's having a fight, but they're both men.
Right.
And so he gives him a punch to the gut, and then the actor, we just asked him just drop to the floor and just take a moment, try to catch your breath. So he was just on the floor like wheezing and so I like moments like that.
Yeah.
I had some really special moments with Benedict and Beatrice this last year. So I really like finding those moments that just connect so much, that make the audience feel like their breath is taken away, or they're just laughing so hard like they can't handle it. So those are the moments I always try to look for.
For sure. Yeah, lots of those in Shakespeare.
Yeah.
You did a good job with that.
Thank you.
Okay, you work with teenagers basically every day of your life. What have you seen Shakespeare do for young people? And how does engaging with these 400-year-old plays impact them as individuals?
Oh, great question. I see it really help them in their maturity a lot. There's a lot of topics that Shakespeare brings up that we can tackle in a really productive way. When I look at maturity, I don't like looking at it in the sense of the world. It's just kind of like a weird maturity. I really think of it as a beautiful thing as you grow. And so I think that really helps a lot to tackle those questions in a productive way, because Shakespeare, I think, was very respectful about life and about relationships, but he was teaching it through things that go wrong a lot of times. So it really helps us to teach.
Yeah, kind of like play theory, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to discuss? You can share where to find your podcast.
Just come find us at the Happiness Playbook, wherever you listen, especially on YouTube right now. We're really trying to grow that.
Tell them about your challenge.
The challenge right now.
With the kids.
Yeah, so with the kids, we said, hey, you can win a prize. It's a gift card to In-N-Out if they get the most subscribers to the channel. And
I didn't even know about that part.
Yeah, I know. And
they don't care about that. This is the part they care about.
The part they care about is if we get to 500 subscribers. This is by next Thursday. We're at like 200 right now, but we got 100 plus in the last week. Yeah, if we get to 500, then me and Ted, another coach, we have to watch K-pop Demon Hunters, which we refused to watch up to this point. And if we get to 1,000, then we'll have to perform. So
what are you going to perform?
We have to perform a song that we had just heard that night.
Oh my goodness.
K-pop Demon Hunters. Okay. So we'll be watching the movie, and then they'll choose a song, and then we will have to look up the lyrics and try to sing it.
I hope they do Soda Pop, because that's the best one.
Okay, yeah. That would be good.
I'm excited for you to watch it. Okay, so
I'm excited too.
So go subscribe so they can watch K-pop Demon Hunters and perform a song.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for being on here, and
Thanks for having me.
Chatting with me. It was fun.
It was a blast. We'll have to have you on the Happiness Playbook too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Michael, for sharing your insights on everything from the Garden of Eden themes in Much Ado About Nothing to why teenagers still connect with Shakespeare's very relatable characters. Be sure to follow Michael Anderson at The Happiness Playbook on YouTube. And I have to say, I'm really rooting for you to hit that subscriber goal so we can all watch you perform K-pop Demon Hunters. If today's episode has you dreaming of experiencing Shakespeare and his homeland, I'd love to invite you to join me on the book club tour. We offer immersive literary tours throughout England, including Stratford-upon-Avon, where you can walk in Shakespeare's footsteps, visit his birthplace, and see world-class performances at the Royal Shakespeare Company. It's one thing to study Shakespeare, it's another entirely to stand in the very places that shaped his imagination. You can find all the details at thebookclubtour.com. Until then, keep reading and stay curious.